Hi, everybody. My name is Pete BarenBregge. I'm the jazz editor for Alfred Music, and I'm very excited to speak with Lisa DeSpain today. Let me give you a little bit about her background, and then we'll talk about a lot of things, all right? So, what I have here is a very dated bio, but I'm going to read it nonetheless. I'm going to say that you're an award winning jazz composer for opera and musical theater, and currently a professor of music at LaGuardia Community College and City University of New York, as well as a clinician teaching master classes in composing for musical theater and opera stages. So we can add to that in a few minutes. Anyhow, Lisa, how you doing?
I'm doing great now that I'm here and seeing people and, and seeing you. This
That
is
has
so
been a long time.
amazing.
Before I start asking you a couple of questions and we have a little discussion, I was just trying to recollect. Because my original knowledge of you is I published a bunch of charts that you had written for the jazz catalog, which were wonderful and still are, and they're great. And I got to get you back into that system. You've been
Great. I
cutting
just
down
did
some
some,
things.
yeah.
Anyhow, I'm just trying to think how I did. I meet you at IAJE, and that's when you told me about yourself, or how did we
Well,
connect?
in 2000,
Oh,
I won that ASCAP commission honoring Duke Ellington,
there you
and
go.
we were in New Orleans, and the Airmen of Note premiered a work for me. That really is what launched my career, and I think that format was where we met.
Okay.
That's my bet. That's my guess, if I can remember back that far.
That's perfect, and that would explain a lot of things with my connection with the Amative Note as well.
Yeah.
So great. So let's get going. All right. So let me ask you
Great.
my first question. This is the tough one now. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. What or who was your first mentor or inspiration in music?
Oh, my first mentor inspiration. Well, I would say my first mentor was Sam Carden, who is a great composer of film, based out of Utah. I think my first inspiration, I don't remember. Well, okay, wait. When I was 4 years old, my parents bought a roller piano, one of those old roller pianos with pedals. And my
Right.
earliest memory is I was probably 3 or 4, pushing on those pedals and making music come out of the piano. You know what I'm talking? Those paper rolls.
Sure.
Like,
Yep.
yeah, that's what we had in the house. So I remember those are my earliest memories of sound. So maybe that's my first inspiration. But I can remember when jazz hit for me. I must have been 13 or 14. I was in a summer band clinic moving from elementary school to junior high. And we were, introduction to the blues and introduction to the blues scale. And my brother was a bass player. And so he kind of knew what was going on. And as they taught us the blues scale and the introduction to improvisation, I looked at my brother and I was like, wait a minute. You mean I can hit any one of these notes and it's not wrong? And he's like, yeah. And he starts walking a bass line. And I was like, boom, freedom. Like the creative freedom just exploded. And I remember at that moment, it was very quickly turned on to Count Basie
All right.
and immediately into Chick Corea. And then, Sam came along as a teacher and helped facilitate that. But my inspiration, when I saw this question, I have to say my inspiration is my family,
That's all good.
who, really helped nurture. I mean, like I have those moments of like, this is the creative thing, but who really inspires me about my musical career and has been the sustainers of my career has been my family. And that's my greatest muse inspiration. I've had beautiful mentors who have taught me many, many things, but that's the thread that has kept me going year after year after year in this career.
That's great. Well, that's a perfect answer, and you couldn't have done better if you had had 2 hours to prepare. All right, next question. Music education is very important to you, and as I see through your work, some people can be just performers without being educators. What drove you to be so passionate to focus on sharing in your love of music?
I don't know who those performers are who are not educators. I don't know. I don't know who they are. I thought about this question also, and I realized that when you're a jazz musician, you inherently are. You take on the role of being taught and then in your time becoming a teacher.
Right.
I mean, I think jazz, we perform it, but we don't just perform it. We're part of a legacy. We're part of a history. You know, we learn from the elders, and then at some point you become an elder and you pass it on. That's the whole core essence of jazz. It was always a mentor relationship, you know, all the way back to the second line. You know, you taught what you had to the younger generation. So I think I don't think I've ever thought of not being a performer or composer or anything in the music industry and separating that from being an educator. I think also now looking back, as having a few more years behind me underneath my belt as an educator, you know, you learn how much your students teach you. And I think when you teach, you learn so much from your students that keeps your art evolving, keeps you from being stale, keeps you being connected to like almost this lifeblood of music as it constantly changes. So I can't even think of who is a performer or who a authentic performer is that isn't a teacher also.
That's a very clear statement, and I appreciate that. And as you said that, even though, you know, I never thought about that myself in those particular words, but each time I'm playing with people who are at my level or better, I'm constantly learning from everybody. And subsequently, I know when I've played with others who might not be as experienced or whatever, just in a band or whatever, a gig or whatever it is, after the fact, they will come up and say, "Hey, you know, how'd you do this or why?" You know, so you're right. It's a give and take constantly, and that's how we survive as players, you know.
Well, and I think it's the legacy of what music is. I think that's what it is to be a musician. I mean,
right.
Bach taught, Mozart taught, you know, they all taught. We all teach. We all are kind of not curators. What's the word? We're part of a bigger legacy, and that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. All righty. This is a question I think you're the perfect person for.
There's no perfect.
What is one genre of music that you like that people would be surprised at? And I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
You do?
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Go ahead. Tell me.
Ooh, I want to take some money on that one. Alan Lomax field recordings. Did I surprise you?
Well, I guess I owe you some money.
I love pretty much anything and everything Alan Lomax recorded on those field recordings. So I will listen to Texas Gladden singing old Appalachian ballads. The Parchment Farms recordings are heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. Jelly Roll Morton, which, you know, okay, that's jazz, you know, but it's so interesting to hear not him just play, but talk about his life. Robert Johnson, Jimmy Rogers. I love early roots in hillbilly. Anything. I feel like I love these recordings because it is American. It is our cultural legacy. It is the mishmash of what we are to be American. And they're authentic. They are so authentic because these are not concert hall musicians. These are recordings of people in the fields using music in life. And there is just something so, as I used the word earlier, heartbreaking, but exquisite, beautiful, real, authentic. And, you know, you could dissect them and say, oh, well, the tone quality this and the tone quality that. They're pure heart. And it's like this pure connection of music. So that's the genre I love to listen to. I will listen to field recordings of early American music, all styles.
Very deep. That's good. Seriously, I think you've opened some doors right there for you, really.
Yeah.
And
I should have mentioned sacred harp. Gosh, discovering sacred harp singing. This is a legacy that's just only invented here in America. Of lay singers, like learning to sing in churches in the early religious revival. I mean, there's a treasure of all of these things that could have only been created basically in the United States because of the melting pot. But anyway, sorry. There we go.
Well, that's impressive. And I think this interview, because I know a variety of people with different musical backgrounds will watch this and see this. And so it's not just going to be jazz people doing it. So you've opened some doors, and I think made a lot of people happy with that comment. So I appreciate you saying. Seriously,
Good.
You broadened the whole spectrum here.
Awesome.
Okay,
What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you would say opera.
Well, it's there too.
Yeah, but like I'm thinking the obvious opera. But so you expanded my horizon, and I appreciate that.
Awesome. Love it.
Good. What advice do you have for someone who wants to start playing an instrument, whatever, or composing? And you can relate that maybe to anything you're currently doing at the same time, if you
Yeah.
would. I know that's a big question.
It is a big question, and I thought about it, and there's a lot of different answers, but I came down with really one. Eliminate the word can't. Just focus on the word can't and take it out of your vocabulary. Now, why would I say that? Shouldn't I, something about, find the right teacher, blah, 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 blah. You can find the information. You can find the right teacher. You're going to have multiple teachers. You're going to go down multiple rabbit holes to chase down information. But if you put the word can't in front of every experience, you will never get there. It's about the mindset to prepare yourself to become all of those things. So when you say the word can't, I can't. And I guess this is also coming from being an educator. I've watched so many students say, I can't do this. And how as a teacher can you give them information when they can't receive it? So if a student is listening to this and they're saying, well, I can't. No, you can. You may not know how to do that right now, but don't put can't in front of it. You can. Now go find the information. Be teachable. Another time when people say can't, it's actually like they're not taking responsibility for the learning. So here's an active challenge. Replace can't with won't. I won't sing soprano. I won't go to the library and study that. You can. So if you're starting to learn, be teachable, say I can, and then go after it because you can. Music is a language. It's a simple language. You've learned to speak, you can learn to play an instrument. You've learned to walk and talk and eat, all of those things, physical, oral, everything you've learned how to do. So yes, you can learn to sing. Yes, you can learn to compose. Yes, you can.
Well, I'm seriously, you have been the screamingly bright light of the day for me personally. that you have. No, I mean, and once again, I look back to the potential people who will be watching this, maybe casually think, oh, I'm going to watch Lisa DeSpain, blah, 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 talk about this and that. And then if they hear this deep information you're sharing, I mean, and you're not even talking about, B flat or A flat or G. You're not talking about music per se. You're talking about the biggest picture of all, and that's yourself and your mind. And that's great. And that's wonderful.
I mean, everything that makes us artists, an individual,
Right.
to create art, it's really our individual expression and it's our individual journey. And again, I think the knowledge is all out there. It's like, how do we engage with it? And as a listener and as a director, as a teacher, like dot dot dot, I don't have the answer. I just lost my train of thought. But it's, yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm loving this conversation. I'll put it that way.
Oh, thanks.
Before we close up, let me ask you one more thing.
Mhm.
Do you have any adventures or musical horizons you're looking for in the near or distant future? Tell us about that, if you would.
Yeah, I'm really quite in a fortunate place right now. I've been working on several big, long projects. I've kind of gotten picked up by the opera world. And what I love is I'm bringing to the opera world my jazz vocabulary and my musical theater training. So
Cool.
I'm working on the biggest project is a grand opera called That Hellbound Train.
Hmm.
And it's a deal with the devil opera. It's written by Robert Bloch, who many people know wrote Psycho. And it's based on a short story. And I love it because it was really an American Faust. And it's the language in it is very much Martin makes a deal with the conductor of the hellbound train, one wish in exchange for, his soul. And then he tries to outsmart the conductor. And what he wishes for is the power to stop time at the happiest moment of his life.
Wow.
And live forever in that moment. And then he goes on his way. And so the opera really follows Martin from his childhood to beyond as he follows this ideal of looking for perfect happiness. And it's very much steeped in so much American language. And we deal with American concepts like manifest destiny and migration and keeping up with the Joneses and capitalism and greed. But it's also very much written, like all the things I've written in my life, I feel like have trained me to write this piece because it does also kind of allude to Robert Johnson selling his soul at the crossroads. And so I'm using blues and jazz and hillbilly and big band. Frank Zappa. Like these are all kind of musical things that go into the pile to create this journey, and it goes along a lifetime span of a human being. So the music will evolve from very roots-based music to very, very, avant-garde, almost sophisticated atonal at the end of his life. And I'm really lucky. I've had a lot of fabulous support. Opera America gave me a grant. I just forgot the name of it. I'm so sorry. Discovery Grant. I got a Discovery Grant from Opera America to support this. We just got an NEA grant, and the NEA has been so delightful and supportive during this pandemic. The funding is in place to continue the workshop. They're just waiting for this terrible time to be over. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I've been working on. Working on another piece for Opera Kansas about the first female team to win the Mendex Trophy race. And it's going to take place in Wichita. And so I've really delved into my love of Count Basie and Walter Page and the Blue Devils. So I'm taking opera and combining it with this jazz language and putting it on a stage and telling stories. And I just feel very blessed and lucky right now. And I hope that the work I do will be a part of putting people back together after this moment.
Very impressive. You have provided, as I said earlier, a breath of fresh air to me personally. I'm serious.
I'm very honored.
There's tremendous depth to you. Not that I didn't think there was before, but I don't know you that well. And it's like, good grief, this woman is really, you have such a huge, what's the word? You have a choose palette that you work with. It's amazing. So thank you very much. Do you have any last things you want to comment on here before we close up?
No. But thank you. And it's just, I mean, honestly, thank you for your, that's what I'll say is thank you for your kind words. Wow. Thank you. I love what I do and I'm lucky. And I have to say, Alfred has been a huge part of that. I felt very honored to write jazz band. I've been very honored to do the choral arrangements for Hamilton. During this pandemic, I've had so many opportunities to zoom in on choral groups and jazz bands. A jazz band that's doing Emily. I've been able to do like zoom in master classes and really meet the performers that are doing the arrangements that I write for y'all, and that brings so much joy to me. So I thank you for the opportunity of being a part of the Alfred family and having that kind of platform to help and meet the students and the faculty and the teachers. That's been such an honor.
Sounds great. Listen, have a wonderful day. Hope the rest of the year is good, and let's hope 2021 is not even better, but way better. And
wish me luck on finishing those deadlines, because I got a couple of operas to write.
All right. Have a great day. Pleasure to see you again.
You too. Ditto. Right back at you.
Take care.